Pastor, would you open up the prayer, please? And then we'll have the pledge of allegiance for flag.
Father, thank you for the beautiful day. Just ask you to bless this time, and we will have, Lord, some information and some insight as to our community in different levels and aspects that will just help us to appreciate what we have and just bless our time here. We ask in Jesus' name.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hanging up too many spaces.
Alrighty, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's a nice affair and everything. Really appreciate y'all. My cohort in crime, she couldn't be here. They're working her about 80 hours a week, so she was in bed sleeping. She had to get back up at 10. And Megan McCarthy, the lady that was going to speak from the health department, she was in a bad accident day before yesterday, so she's laid up and she's at home, so she's in good shape. So tonight we'll open up with Sharon, our advocate for Sumter County, so we'll explain to you what all she's involved in.
Yes, we got Sharon Howard as our Director of Victim Services. We have a lot of programs at the Sheriff's Office. She's going to explain that. A lot of programs that you can use, and I also got Sergeant Peters is here. He's part of our peer support group. He just recently went to a school through FDLE. He's also been involved in officer-involved shooting. So he can tell you the aftermath. We've talking about it. He's good with it. He's a former Marine. He's been with us for a while, and he can tell you having these groups, what it does and how it helps. Because not only does it does fire, EMS, first responders, law enforcement, just having that group, someone that we can talk to afterwards, and we have that off through the Sheriff's Office, and then one of our crime specialists is going to be here to talk to you through what they do, because they're part of her program and the services that she offers. And we'll go from there. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes beyond just deputies showing up, and we're going to explain to you what goes on after we leave. And that's what they're here to do, to talk to you about tonight.
Lieutenant, there's no such thing as a form of memory.
Well, I didn't think ex-Marine was the way to do it, so I figured former was the way to do it. I guess I was wrong on that. So. Go ahead.
Hi everybody, thank you for having me today. I'm really excited. I get excited anytime I get to talk about what I do for the Sheriff's Office. Some people might disagree, but I think I have the best job in the Sheriff's Office, and our unit is pretty awesome. So I'm the Director of Victim Services. I was a victim advocate. I supervise our 2 victim advocates. Our unit is 2 victim advocates and 2 crisis intervention specialists. Kate Van Buren is one of our crisis intervention specialists, and I'll let her talk a little bit about her perspective, about what she does. They're a new unit, or new positions within the Sheriff's Office, only within the last year. So it's very exciting, still kind of up and growing as we try to respond to the needs of the community and kind of be all inclusive. So our victim advocates respond to victims of crime, and we work with all victims of crime. Survivors of homicides, robbery victims, sexual assault victims, domestic violence victims, and I mean, what could you, does anybody know? I know I've heard some people have had experience with victim advocates. Does anybody know what a victim advocate does? You do. I know you do. So
I don't understand. How is a victim of homicide?
The survivor.
You can't help them anymore.
No, sir. But the surviving, that's why I said survivors of homicide.
Oh, surviving
victims of homicide. So all this point,
The
yeah.
terminology. Sorry, I'm just so technical.
That's okay. So first and foremost, we're there, we are on call 24/7 to respond to the needs of victims. We're not called out to every victim of crime, but if we're not called out to respond out to a crime, we're following up with victims the next day. Our advocates read all the law enforcement reports, they reach out to victims to offer them services. A majority of our victims are domestic violence victims. They often need a lot of support through the criminal justice system. We will help them apply for injunctions for protections, which are like restraining orders. We will follow them as much or as little as they want us involved in the criminal justice process. So that means going to court with them, if they have an interview with the prosecution, if they are coming in to give some more testimony with our law enforcement or with the detective, we're allowed to sit in on those. And we're there as an emotional support for that person. We're kind of a consistent person throughout the investigation, throughout the court process. And we're just there to provide information. A lot of our victims are not familiar with the criminal justice process, right? The victimization might be the first time that they are thrown into the criminal justice system. And so it's scary, right? Some people only know about the criminal justice system based on what they see on TV, right? And if you've ever watched a crime show, how quick does the trial happen? It's like the crime happens, right? Forensics finds a carpet fiber, the suspect is arrested that night, and the trial is 2 days later, right? And everything is fine. And I have to say that's the most common question that I get as an advocate is, so when do I have to go to trial? And people believe that the trial, so if you're not familiar with the criminal justice system, you don't know that it's a long process. The defendant will go to court and go before the judge many times before the victim has to be present to give any testimony. In some cases, never even go to trial. So we will support them through the criminal justice system. We help make it a little bit easier to understand terminology that's used. You know, for us who are in the criminal justice system, we know terminology, we know all the acronyms we use, we know all of the people, we know the people at the prosecutor's office, so it's very familiar to us. But for a victim who's kind of thrown into the criminal justice system, it's scary. So we're there to provide them with information, provide them with support, and just explain what things mean. We also try to connect with community groups and community resources. There are other organizations in our community. Maybe you've heard of Haven of Lake and Sumter County. They are a domestic violence and sexual assault center. So we will connect victims to those kind of resources. We partner with the health department, with churches, with the Salvation Army. So we try to reach out to local community groups and local organizations so that if we have somebody, many people that we meet who are victims of crime, that's not the only thing that they need help with, right? Maybe they're facing an eviction or homelessness and we have to connect them to some kind of affordable housing. So we try to be well versed in all community programs because many people have a lot of other needs that they need, and we help kind of guide them through that process. We know what the community resources and the different avenues are, and so we can point them in the right direction. There's also advocates that work with the state attorney's office, so we work with them as well. We have a child advocacy center that works with our child victims of crime. So if we have a child who's been a victim of crime and they need maybe continued counseling or something like that, we'll refer them to there as well. So we really try to help victims along every avenue, not just with the crime. So with that said, we get a lot of calls from our deputies and people working on the road for other things as well, because we're so connected to the community and the resources that are available. So many times deputies would call us because they have somebody who is maybe struggling with mental illness or who is caregiving for a member with dementia or Alzheimer's. And so we were kind of organically getting these calls because some of our deputies they just didn't know what existed, and they knew that we may know. So that's where the need for somebody to respond specifically to mental health concerns in our community and those kind of things was really needed. And in addition, like I said, we are on call, so after hours to respond to victims of crime, but if something happens like a domestic, it's nice to have somebody who has an immediate response to respond to that victim and be an emotional support. So we created and I should mention, the Victim Advocates was really nice, is we are funded under a grant program. So our salaries and anything that we need for our program are grant funded, so it doesn't come from the general budget of the Sheriff's Office. So of course, to add to our, yes?
I just want to point out also, since you brought that up,
Yeah.
one of the things that they also do is when they respond to these calls, so a deputy goes to a domestic call, he gets there, he assesses whether a crime has happened, he arrests the one person, and then all of these other things start to happen, where they need services and things like that. In the past, the deputy, whose job is to make the arrest, get the arrest processed, and get back out patrolling, which is what we all want, has to stand by and used to have to do all these things. So now they arrive and they take this over, so it makes it more efficient, and it certainly saves taxpayers money while not lowering any level of service and actually increasing the level of service that we're able to provide.
And so along with that, right, we knew that if we created new positions, we wanted them to accent patrol and to get our patrol deputies back on the road as quickly as possible. So that's where the crisis intervention team kind of was born. And we secured grant funding for those two positions as well through a federal grant. So that grant pays for their salaries to be able to work with patrol. They work a swing shift, so they work 12 to midnight, and they're actually out, just like our patrol deputies, monitoring the calls for service, and they're dispatched to mental health calls, domestic disturbances, dementia and Alzheimer's, anything in which their services could be used to also help de-escalate people that may be having a mental health crisis. So they're both, so we have two of them, Kate is one, Tammy works our opposite shift. They are both well-versed in mental health, both well-trained in mental health and responding to people who are in a crisis. So I'll let Kate explain a little bit about what she does and what she sees. And then
okay, so I think the best way to kind of explain is, in Sumter County, there's not a lot of resources, as we know. It's kind of small in that area. You don't know a lot of places you can go if you have an emergency, if you need something. Some small type of emergencies, not like a big, 911 type of thing all the time. So there are things that I can think in my head, maybe this would be a good fit for what's going on with you. Maybe this would. I could reach out, give you the contacts, stuff like that you maybe not think of at the time that everything's going on, because when something's going on, let's face it, our minds are everywhere else but with our ducks in a row. So I'm kind of there to, like she said, de-escalate a situation, maybe bring you back down from here, back down here, so we can kind of get moving, get our deputies back out to more higher priority calls, and I can stay with whoever needs and get you what you need, whether that be, like you said, shelters for homeless, domestic violence, and then I think a better way is maybe an explanation of like a call I went on. So here recently, it was a trespass call. I went out and she was just in a really bad spot financially, needed some help, needed maybe some job opportunity, know where to go for that, safe place to sleep for that night, to be quite honest. After calling around, because emergencies do not wait when it's convenient for you. It was late at night, so what? Everything's closed after 5, unfortunately. So we can sit there for hours on end with you, doing some digging, trying to get you to a safe spot. We're not just going to leave you on the side of the road with nothing to do. So our deputies got to leave, and I stayed there until I found somewhere for her to go that night. And she was safe, and she got a roof over her head, and now she's back on her feet. So it's just kind of a stepping stone to get you guys in a good spot, get that emergency taken care of right then and there, and then if needed, follow you through whatever else you might need. So if it's not something that gets fixed in a day or two, I'll follow you for 2 weeks. I live in Lake Panasoffkee, so a lot of the calls over here I have are juvenile calls, and I'm kind of following and getting close to a couple of them. So even if it's not emergent, they reach out to me for any type of question they need regarding, okay, what's your idea about this? Do you have any suggestions on this type of counseling or maybe this type of therapy? And it doesn't always have to be an emergency, but you have someone to reach out to, where you don't always have to call 911, but you don't know where to go. So that's kind of what we do, and like she's explained, we ride out with the patrol, and I just monitor the calls, see which one seems fitting, where I might need to go. So you see me around, hopefully you don't, because I feel like it might be a bad situation, but maybe you see me in Family Dollar or something like that. But I try to de-escalate as best I can, whether it's just some dumb jokes or showing pictures of my baby, I don't know. But there's I love working here. I love how we can help people and point you in the right direction. It's all still new, so we're learning as well as everybody else is learning us. But I believe it is a great program, and it's very helpful and proven to be so far. Our deputies are thankful that we're out to be able to get them out and back on the road and where they need to be. But everyone is still taking care of the end of the day, which is what's most important. My day.
And like I said, they've only been in their positions for a year. They started in January. We did a little bit of a training program. They hit the ground running in February. And in their first year, they responded to over 500 calls for service, only 2 people. And I will also put a disclaimer on that she had a baby in the process. So she was out for 3 months. The need is very much there. I think in the beginning, our deputies were like, who are you and why are you showing up here, right? But now they've learned how powerful of a resource that they are, and they call them nonstop. Even if they are on another call and they can't go to that specific call, the deputies will email them. They'll provide really great follow-up. I couldn't ask for better people because they are just so passionate about what they do. They've gotten donated for us autism kits because they were responding to many kids that were in crisis that needed help to de-escalate with autism. And so they got donated these kits for them to carry in their car, communication boards for some of our deputies to carry in their car, because all of those things help to de-escalate a child with autism who might be experiencing sensory overload or something going on. So they've done an excellent job with our juvenile population. Just really great work. So there's more to come with them. Another thing that we've been trying to do is target some of our high utilizers of 911. Because if people are calling 911 a lot of times there's an underlying need that's not being met there. So I'll give you an example. We had a woman who had called, I think it was over 80 times in a year. Well, her husband was a fall risk, right? So he would fall and she would need assistance of EMS to go and pick him up. So we followed up with her on the proactive side, got her some information for some in-home nursing and some home services. So hopefully we see a decrease in calls for service like that. We see that a lot, sometimes with elderly people or somebody who lives alone who doesn't have the resources to get out, just go out to the store. They may use 911. And so we want to keep those lines clear. We want to keep our deputies available to respond for emergencies. So if we can proactively meet those people and help them meet a need, then they're not having to utilize 911 all the time.
Where do your services involved in terms of beginnings?
So they're a little bit tandem.
I don't have to answer the question, but so we're out 12 to 12 is my shift. So say you have an emergency today. I come out, give you services, whatever I can do at the moment. We share all of our shifts, all of our reports and everything. My partners and I, supervisor, all of us as a group share everything. They will kind of comb through what we did over that last shift, what services we've given, and sometimes do a follow-up call that next morning from office, check in, hey, how are you doing? Because again, we don't get on till 12, so sometimes I'm still sleeping on baby, so, you know. But then there's somebody that can check in right away that next day, follow through, hey, there's some ideas I have, hey, why don't you offer this? Go out there this afternoon, do that. So, I mean, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's kind of where our services come together, right?
So they really,
We all work pretty much
The victim advocates prioritize victims of crime. So if there is a victim of crime, they respond out to a domestic with a woman and young children and they need assistance, that's a case that's absolutely going to get passed off to one of our victim advocates. If it is a mental health related call or something that might be more in their wheelhouse, if there's something that we can assist or a phone call we can make, like she said, because they don't come on until 12, we will assist with that too. We have great communication. We have an ongoing communication between the 5 of us so that we, at any point, if the person calls in, I already know what Kate did last night or what needs to be done. So our victim advocates prioritize our victims of crime and they work those cases. In addition to the cases that they respond out to, Kate and Tammy probably maintain a caseload of like 30 cases that they provide ongoing follow-up with. So she mentioned briefly working with some juveniles, right? Some of our family members are parents of juveniles who, and some of these kids have been Baker acted multiple times. They're having behavior issues in school. Those are kids that Kate and Tammy are staying in constant contact with and following up with and getting them services so that they can hopefully avoid any crisis in the future. So they really prioritize the mental health calls where our victim advocates are different. If that makes sense. So, I mean, we do a lot of stuff.
We have a lot of different little paths.
Yes.
But dip our toes everywhere we can.
Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
First of all, it's amazing that you only have 5 employees that are doing all that.
Right.
Because of the amount of people that you help.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, on the homelessness, where do you find people?
I have a list of shelters that I'll start with, 2 of which we have, like, personal, I've talked to so many times that I know pretty much who's open, who's not, who could have other contacts. So if they can't help, who has the most amount that I can start calling to find someone. Maybe that could also be like the Salvation Army, get some financial help, maybe vouchers for things from them. But really, I just kind of point you in the direction I can to find you a safe spot for that night and continue on. But
we have to be very creative because there really isn't, I mean, there's a refuge at Jumper Creek. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, like in the wintertime, I know it was a big deal when the temperatures were going down, people were concerned. We have a list in dispatch of surrounding areas that have shelters because unfortunately in Sumter County we don't have any. So for instance, you have the Salvation Army in Ocala, and we are willing to transport people to get them to where they need to go. So what happens is we rely on typically resources that are outside Sumter County.
Right.
We'll take them.
now,
Even the homeless shelters, many of them are outside of Sumter County. We've had some luck with some very, like I said, we try to be creative. So like we've had some churches that have programs that will at least maybe put somebody up in a hotel for a night until we can get them. Because if you talk about the homeless coalition or, you know, getting some kind of affordable housing, it's a long wait list for subsidized housing. So many times we have to work without a county, we're just kind of creative resources. Which is what Kate did.
Yeah, I have the lady I was speaking of earlier. She's actually now living with her boyfriend in one of the campers at the campsite that we had dropped her off and taken her to for that night. So they're working at that campsite for the people that own it so that they can stay there and not have to worry about the payment and everything. So they're giving them a break and everything. But that was the creative thing we had to do is I literally think I called 17 different places for this woman on Saturday. I was about to take her home with me. So, I mean, we will find, if you're willing to take the help and you will work with us and take the time, we're gonna do anything possible to advocate.
Why, I'm sorry, go ahead, Minister. Why is there no places here?
You wanna open one with financial?
Well,
Right.
I ran one in Wisconsin, I was up there for 3 years, and I volunteered. They had taken a problem hotel, or motel, Holiday Inn, whatever you want to, you know, and I'd stay there 4 days a week, overnight. People come in and check in, go unlock the door, let them in. And I kind of fed everybody every week.
I have a brain full of big, giant, fun ideas I would love to open up and do, and that would be one of them. I wish there was.
They just took it all, a problem place
Yeah.
and turned it into a club.
Has anyone ever put a proposal in to the commissioners to supply Sumter County with a homeless shelter?
I mean, many of homeless shelters that are in existence are either faith-based or they're nonprofit. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but it's usually an organization that comes in and decides to open a homeless shelter.
Open a shelter.
Yes, many of them are faith-based. So maybe there's a church behind it, or like I said, they're a nonprofit organization. So it's not, they're not county-funded shelters for homeless. Right.
There's got to have some kind of grant program.
If you guys know, a church or somebody that would like to,
There's not
for
nothing here
sure.
anymore.
Right, I mean, because we definitely need it. It is something that
I'm
we.
bored to death here.
So, any other questions?
You were starting to say something about Jumper Creek.
The refuge at Jumper Creek is it's a homeless shelter that's in Sumter County.
Where's that at?
They're not,
Jumper Creek.
I want to describe Jumper Creek, but like where.
Bushnell. Bushnell, yeah. But it's not associated with the Homeless Coalition. It's a kind of private, and I think he's a faith-based organization. Many times, he hasn't had availability, so, I mean,
They get rules.
Yes.
And sometimes there are people the people that are trying to assist don't fit their rules.
So,
Awesome.
yes.
I just found out today, I'm not real sure, it's kind of, but the state of Florida granted a large sum of money, I don't know how much yet, for building a shelter in Lake Panasoffkee. And I got to check with Mr. Arnold this week and see, because in the description, it doesn't say what kind of shelter, and it doesn't say where they'll be building it in Lake Pan, but the state has granted a large sum of money for Lake Panasoffkee. So I'll go either this week or next week and try to find out exactly what is going to transpire, whether the county commissioner, along with Mr. Arnold, knows what's going on. He's definitely the man that the grant was directed to, so he has the say so exactly where it's going to go. But that's all the information that I have on it right now. So hopefully we'll get some kind of a grant.
We'll keep you apprised, okay? And see what you find out. And I am an individual that I think that I could reach out to that would give us sizable funding. I have never dealt in this realm. I've gotten funding for a lot of things, but this would be awesome. If we could get something here.
It helps a lot.
It really would, and if I could get this individual, and I know he would, we would be able to go forward with this.
We provided the same, like a lot of the services that you talk about on site. They would come in every week, and they would go over what they need, help them get their social security card,
Right.
driver's license,
Jobs.
find jobs, find them housing. And, you know, because their time is limited
Right.
by the law, you can only 30 days.
Right.
Mitigating circumstances. Of course, in the wintertime up there, it's brutal.
Oh, yeah.
So there were a lot of people stayed there a lot longer.
Yeah.
But the thing was to help people help themselves.
Right.
And if they didn't try to help themselves, or if they were on, drugs or had a problem, and they couldn't stick with the program, well, then they'd have to go.
Right.
You know, it's sad, but that's just the way it is.
Right. Well, yeah, we certainly need more help for people. Yeah.
Having spent time as a volunteer for the Center for Youth and Rape Emergencies in Charlotte County, there's a lot that goes into having a shelter. You have to be able to provide cards for them to get fuel,
Right.
food, clothing, and the shelter has to be able to provide a lot of these things, and donations are massively required.
And you talked about domestic violence shelter, so I mean, we do have a domestic violence shelter that serves Lake and Sumter County for victims of domestic violence who may be leaving, but they are located in Lake County, their actual shelter, and they only have 14 beds. So you can imagine how often. That's their outreach office down the street. Yep, it is.
But if we had something in Charlotte, or in Sumter County and out here,
Yeah.
but one thing too, is you can't really publicize the address for the
domestic,
safety
yes,
of the
yeah.
victims.
They have different rules for shelter, DV shelters.
And one of my jobs as a court advocate
Mhm.
was I was standing between the victim and the perpetrator
Right,
to keep that victim in a more comfortable zone
right,
in court.
yeah, and that's important.
And to be with them during the sexual assault exam.
Mm-hmm.
That is, giving them moral support is critical.
The problem I see here is no transportation, like no bus. It's not really a bus system.
Yeah, that's,
It'll be hard, that's the only thing that I see as a drawback around here. There's really no way to get people from there to their jobs, unless you have volunteers that are going to drive.
The county bus transportation system can help out. And that's where the donations come in handy to provide the passes for them to be able to use the transportation system.
Chuck, what type of shelter is that money donated for? Do you know?
we don't know.
Just so that
Well, to be continued. As we grow, hopefully some services and some help will come. So that's a little bit about what we do, like our unit does. I'm also involved in our peer support team, which I'm gonna let Chris talk about. But peer support is something because not only do we want to focus and prioritize our community's mental health, but we also recognize that our law enforcement officers' mental health is very important also. So we started a peer support team where we have members of the sheriff's office that act as peers to provide that. We really try to bring things in that are going to help the overall emotional wellness of our officers because for our deputies, because they are exposed to some very traumatic incidences. And so I'll let him talk more about that. If you guys have any questions?
Y'all are not sworn officers.
We are not. We are civilians, yes.
All right, how you guys doing? I'm Chris McPeters. I'm a sergeant with the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. I've been employed, just a little background about me. I served 4 years in the military. I was active duty Marine Corps. Served one deployment overseas to Afghanistan, saw some combat action over there. Started my sheriff's office career back in 2013 and been here ever since. Done everything from road patrol, vice and narcotics, SWAT team, still on the SWAT team. Just recently got promoted to sergeant here, probably a little less than a year ago. With all that being said, everybody keep in mind, all these deputies and stuff out here, we're humans too. Okay, we get exposed to some gruesome things throughout our career. Therefore, that's where the peer support team comes into play. With the peer support team, it's made up of lieutenants, sergeants, corporals, normal deputies, detectives that have all been through critical incidents. That way, in the event you go through something similar that they've already been through, they already know the process, they already know basically how you're feeling and basically what they expect, so they can help you through that process. Here recently, I was involved in an officer-involved shooting. It was my first ever, within my 10 years with the agency. The agency was very supportive. I'm not going to go into detail about the shooting incident, but I had at the time I wasn't part of the peer support group, so I had those people that had already experienced an officer-involved shooting. I could kind of rely on them for advice and where to go from there. Typically, how we treat our officer-involved shootings, we'll have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement come in to investigate us, perform a criminal investigation on the deputy that was involved. So, with that being said, how do you think that makes us feel when we're having a criminal investigation done on us? Yeah, in the back of your head, you might think, hey, it's nothing, it's justified, it is what it is. But also in the back of your head, you always have that small guy telling you, hey, you might have messed something up, they might find something wrong with your shoe, and you could end up going to prison. So there's a multitude of things that being in this profession, especially in this day and time, it's a violent world out here. It is. You guys see everything on the news. Not only do we experience things in our personal lives, but we also come out here to the road and experience things such as suicide, homicides, dead babies, things of that nature. So we need a way to kind of decompress away from all that. That's where the peer support group comes into play. Florida just started a statewide program. It's the Post-Critical Incident Seminar. I just attended that this past week. South Carolina, we ended up picking it up from other states across the country. South Carolina, I think they've had it probably the longest. They've had it for 20 plus years now. And based off the suicide rates here in the state of Florida alone, just last year, don't quote me on my stats or anything like that, but just in Florida alone last year, we had between 44 and 48 suicides for cops, for law enforcement. And that's because we don't have a way to decompress. We didn't have those resources that we have now. I think the Sheriff's Office has had our peer support group for about 4 or 5 years roughly?
Yeah.
And it's nothing but great things. And with the statewide program, it offers us more resources. The seminar I went to last week is completely funded by FDOE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It was an all-inclusive retreat. You pay for your hotel room, pay for your food while you're there, and you're there just basically telling your story on your critical incidents that happened and to everybody in the room. So you're hearing all these stories and you're basically comparing what you went through compared to what other people have gone through, other officers, dispatchers, firefighters. The seminars up to all first responders. And then they have clinicians there, licensed therapists, psychiatrists that you can go and talk to, and they teach you how to decompress, how to, get through what you're struggling with. And all of it's kept confidential. Obviously, if you're making self-harm statements and all that stuff, it has to get addressed separately. Or if you admit to a crime, that gets addressed separately. Obviously, you could be held liable for it. But for the most part, everything gets kept confidential in that respect. So it's nice to have the state of Florida, dealing with our mental well-being as well as our sheriff's office. Nothing but good things.
Do they teach, do they give you any instruction on how to recognize that one of your colleagues is going through a hard time, to recognize that something might be up with them, that they might need some help?
Absolutely. I mean, typically if they're outgoing and, they're normally outgoing and all of a sudden you see they're kind of down and depressed, they're not really talkative, they're, not really communicating with you. I mean, that's one of the signs.
So the programs are statewide.
Exactly. Awesome. And that's the ultimate goal, is to kind of cut the suicide rate down here in Florida.
When you get assigned to somebody in the future now that you've been through it, how many contacts do you maintain contact with the person, not just the night of the incident? Do you continue to follow up with that person over a period of time? So look for those signs that he's referring to.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many phone calls and text messages I got when I was involved in my shooting from the peer support group. They're constantly, every day I was offered adamantly, hey, you good? You okay? You know, calling me saying, hey, you all right? You good? And just checking on it. Honestly, it's nice, but at the same time, it can get kind of annoying. It can, because you kind of want to take that time to decompress and stay to yourself. But at the same time, you enjoy them, you know, checking up on you and taking care of you, you know, checking up on your own.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
Yeah, am I confused? I'm always confused. Did you match with these two ladies in, oops, that's not going to get elected. Do you interface with them in respect?
Yeah, I'm a sergeant on the road, so I kind of talk to her a little bit more than I do her. Just simply because she's on the road with us, and anytime we need assistance with, you know, a mental patient or somebody going through some trauma due to a domestic or anything like that, we would typically just call her out because she's already out on the road. But yes, we do communicate.
We also work well with our fire department because a lot of times they're on the scene with us and they pick up stuff before we get their supervisors. I know the one we had in the south, and I believe you were there was a young baby that died, and our deputy was one of the first ones on scene. Well, by the time we got there and talked to him, he wasn't really talking much to us. We knew something was there. Well, one of the fire chiefs was on scene and said, hey, you're going to want to talk to him. He had a real bad experience with seeing this kid, working on the kid, CPR, everything, and he got to see firsthand before we got there. And we reached out to him, and he was glad we got him support, but we didn't see that. But the fire department recognized that. So when they see that, because a lot of times they beat us there to the call, the deputy gets there, the supervisor might not show up in 10 minutes, we're somewhere else, and they'll let us know, hey, might need to talk to him later on.
So you interface with the fire department?
Yes, and they recognize and see when we're exposed to something traumatic, because, I mean, people dying is not normal for people to see. And we're the ones that get there first, have to save them. And this was a young baby, less than a year old, and he was a father himself, and it really hit him after the fact. He did his job while he was there. When they realized the baby was dying, it hit him, just clicked in. And then they told us, hey, this is what we saw, and then we got him help. And he was very appreciative afterwards because he's very strong-willed, prideful. You know, he's 20 years in the military, he's been here, and he didn't realize how much it affected him. And then we went to him because they recognized what was going on. And it's just, we all work together. So.
One other thing, that seminar I went to last week, that seminar also contained a bunch of peer support personnel from different agencies on a statewide level. Keep in mind, these are deputies and officers, dispatchers and stuff from the state, from around the state. So obviously if we go to the seminar and we communicate, you know, one-on-one with one of them, they're trained in the same stuff that, you know, our normal peer support group is trained on. If we feel more comfortable talking to one of them, I can call somebody down in Miami saying, hey, I'm having problems with this, if I don't feel comfortable talking to somebody in my own agency. So that's where this whole statewide, you know, program comes into play. It's good stuff.
It's not only the deputy, we got a dispatcher that's taking this initial phone call, that's hearing all this going on. They need services too, so it's a group thing, and a lot of times people forget when they're taking an initial call and hearing all this, they're hearing it in its raw state. And then afterward, a lot of times they need counseling. I know when they've been involved, and they're civilians, so they're not seeing some of the stuff we see, but they hear it. So we look at everybody in whole that was affected and talk to them all. So it's not only the deputies, but there's, you know, just anybody involved in that call that needs someone to talk to. And sometimes they get, I don't want to say get forgotten about, but we forget that they're traumatized too just by taking the phone call. So.
Didn't know that type of thing existed. All you guys, yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question that may not be kosher to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. how are all you sworn officers and not sworn officers? Are you satisfied with the prosecuting attorneys?
Locally, nationally, federally,
Locally.
we have a great relationship with them. A lot of times, their hands are tied too. There's sometimes that they don't like sometimes, and it's like I've talked before on certain cases, we make the arrest, and then it's a good case, it gets to their office, something falls through. Either the victim says, hey, look, I don't want to do this no more. I'm done, I'm not going to cooperate. Our hands are tied, their hands are tied, because nobody wants to get up and testify. Sometimes cases fall apart later on down the road when they take so long to get there.
I can say this, that our current state attorney in the last quarter, they do a report on how many arrests that we prosecuted that have gone to prison in the entire state of Florida, the 5th Judicial Circuit, which is what we are in. He has led the state in the #1 spot, and he's typically in the top 3 to 5 as far as sending people to prison. So I can say this, he prosecutes a lot of cases and they get a lot of prison time. But like the Lieutenant's saying, there are a lot of reasons why a case falls apart. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with the deputy and what they did. They documented, you don't know how many victims come in after you go to a fight or to whatever, and then all of a sudden they discover amnesia, even though they wrote a written statement the night of because they want to help out their friend or something happened. Nobody can control that. And a lot of times that does happen. But what you're seeing across the country, as far as the other stuff, not prosecuting, that doesn't happen here.
But you feel happy with the aggressiveness of the prosecuting attorneys?
So I do.
Definitely. And talking with them and working with them for years, all prosecutors want to take a case and prosecute it as to the fullest they can within what the law says. They haven't upheld too. The last thing they want to do is take a case and dismiss it, or lose on a technicality. And they take it as serious as we do, making the arrest. They want to take it to the fullest.
Well, I hear all these stories about arrest and release, no bail.
Well, and that's where sometimes there's rules already set forth in place that they can't control.
Well, the state just redid the bail, the bonds, we call them bonds, the bond schedule, where it used to be localized. We go off a bond sheet, so of course if you're watching all the word mounds and stuff, and people on there and they see the $1,000 bond, why do you only get a $1,000 bond? We don't put those on there. We go off of the schedule. It used to be put together. Now they have a statewide one, because we had to update our system, where a lot of them are no bonds now, and so it's automatic. Now it came from the state. So
remember when Judge Militello explained that, I think back in January, he showed and explained why the bond schedule changed. Now it's uniform statewide versus a bond here might be different in Orange County. And he coming to give a complete break, which is very educational, of why now we have a uniform bond schedule from Key West, all of Pensacola, Jack, everything is the same.
But are you saying that what was passed was like no bond, or was it?
Depending on some crimes.
There's a chart that can't.
Yeah, so like when we make an arrest, we just don't take a dartboard and say, I think we'll give them that. It's already set in place what their bond's gonna be. So we don't get to pick that. There's a bond schedule set in place for all the charges.
Basically, it depends on the charge, depends on the criminal history, and so on and so forth.
And then they go to first appearance, see a judge, and then it's set from there.
Just so we don't get to the point like some of these cities where they just run them through the front door and out the back.
Well, that's kind of, I believe, why they did, when Judge Militello explained it, or why they made a uniform system statewide. Some crimes here, the bond was egregiously different. And then you might go to Orange County and you might just get catch and release. Really, you get booked in and released the same day.
Yeah.
And that's why they said it's not fair. What's good in Orange County is be good in Sumter. And they made it where it's the same. And
you're happy with that?
Oh yeah, everybody, very happy. Locally, we have a good working relationship with our prosecutors. They're always accessible. They email us back and forth. They prepare us for trials. Can't really complain.
And I'll tell you how attentive the deputies are and the detectives are. If we're working a case on somebody, for instance, and we suspect him of, say, several burglaries, and we arrest him on another charge, or something you know is far more serious, say he's a homicide suspect, but we don't have enough evidence to put him in jail. but we're getting close. They were waiting on some evidence to come back or something like that. And we get them for burglary. Our guys are so attentive, what they'll do is notify the detective, hey, this guy, we just arrested him for burglary. We will show up at first appearance, which is usually you'll give them a bond and then you go to first appearance. And that's when the judge usually has leeway to do something with the bond. We will show up to the bond hearing and request certain bonds at times based on what's going on. So if that gives you any insight into the mindset of how we do it here in Sumter County. We make sure that we keep people in jail.
God bless you. I tell you, I don't know about other counties, but if they are as aggressive and are as educated as you guys are, we got a heck of a good state.
I will say again at this meeting, if you all are interested in a lot of this stuff, you can get a much deeper education if you go through the County Citizens Academy, the Sheriff's Department Citizens Academy, and now upcoming for another session is the prosecutor's course. And I've taken the first 2 and I'm scheduled to take the 3rd course. It's very informative and you get to visit. You go through the jail, you see the different pods, you go through the court. The judge will talk to you, you get to witness the first hearing. There's a lot of good information if you just avail yourself of taking these courses.
How do you get into that?
Call Teresa Cooper at the county's main number and they'll connect you to Teresa.
Teresa Cooper. Thank you.
I read an article not too long ago that said Lake Panasoffkee was one of the safest areas in the county. Did you guys hear that? Do you understand that?
I didn't write that, by the way.
I was surprised because I had a list of all the local towns and
Here's the thing, if every community had a Lake Pan word of mouth, then you know everything going on. So a lot of stuff that you hear and see, it's going on everywhere else. It's just people get on there and put it out faster before we can put it out. It's like, oh my God, did you see it last night? Before we can respond, it's already gone viral.
Last night, I mean, many people heard about the police that were flying all over the place and what was going on last night.
Saw it on Facebook.
Saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, I got a text.
The progression of my wife, so late at night, and I sit and while I'm watching whatever, scroll Facebook. So the thing happened, I mean, instantaneous.
2 minutes
right
later.
on word of mouth. And then, so of course I called dispatch, and what's going on like that? And what's funny is the information is usually, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. This was a traffic crash, okay? So this person had a traffic crash, the deputy came upon the traffic crash, and then the person ran away from the traffic crash. So of course, you get right there, well, what's the description? What's this? Okay, what's in the middle of the night? The guy rolls up, he didn't really meet the driver of the car, the guy took off. So, you know, we had all the police come because we were setting up the perimeter, trying to find them, put the drones up, and so we put it out there. So I'm on the phone with dispatch, and they're like, how do you know that this just happened? And I said, hey, when you get a chance, because you got to understand what he's doing. He's showing up, he's directing people where they got to go, and we're dealing with the problem at hand. So the idea that he picks up the phone and calls dispatch and put those alerts that are on our app, he has to take the time to do that. Well, he has to set everything up first before he makes that phone call. So I told him, I know you're busy, but when you get a chance, please call, because it's already out on. And then, of course, I went on word of mouth and said, hey, this is what happened, blah, 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 and then put it out there. So, yeah.
But as Lake Pan being safe, I would say yes. I live here, I have kids here. Had lunch with the property crime detective that works us, and she even said, you know, we haven't had many cases out of Lake Pan lately. And it's everything goes in trends. It's you know, 1 month we might have a rash of burglaries in this area, down here it's down. But statistically, for the amount of people that live here, there's not a lot of person crimes. If there is, there's not. If there is somebody getting hurt, they know one another. It's not like some stranger coming in and beating you up or robbing you. Not saying it can't happen, but it's usually crimes of passion, or someone's mad at this one, there's a beef, and it escalates to something more. So I would say it's a very safe place, and it just depends on who you're associating with.
But I also want to give full credit to everybody in this room.
Yeah.
And everybody that lives in Lake Pan.
See something, say something.
One of our philosophies are, you know, the old 80s, 90s, when they had the neighborhood watch. And typically you have like a group of 6 guys, and I appreciate everything that he does as far as drawing out. And he does it himself. But the key is in today's day and age, how many people in this room have cell phones? Oh, yeah, oh, right? The key is you all are the neighborhood watch. You're driving around all the time. We don't have to rely, because typically what happens is people get comfortable and they go, oh, well, we got the neighborhood watch. If they see something, they'll call it in, and then they drive. Well, here's the deal. Every one of you is a neighborhood watch. If you've got your cell phones readily available, if you see something that's out of place, all you have to do is see something and say something. We're gonna go check it out. And so we've really been pushing that more than the other standard one, because it works better. I mean, there's more eyes, more people that are out there. So I would really attribute it to you all more so than us. Although I will take some credit.
The more, see something, say something signs that are put out in the neighborhoods is a good deterrent.
Yeah, if you walk in and know, and you see a sign that says, everybody's watching you, as opposed to, hey, you see that car drive by? I mean, we're all kids, some are better than others, obviously. I mean, one of the things, you're walking around, you see the car go by, you go, okay, he did his trip by, he's probably not gonna be back for a little bit, I can go do something. But if you think everybody's watching you, it's more of a deterrent.
And Chuck's watching them more than anybody else.
That's true.
And you guys know your neighbors better than anybody. If there's something out of place, you live there every day, you wake up, you go in your yard, you sit on your porch, like, all right, that looks strange, or that car, I haven't seen her. Hey, why is that car sitting there so long? You're going to pick up on something more than the patrolman might, because it's maybe his first or second through on that road on that day. But you know something's out of place. Or if your neighbor's gone now, there's a car there that shouldn't be there. Well, the guy, whatever David's patrolling might not recognize that car should be in that driveway, just like a car parked in the driveway. But that's where if you see something, hey, we're going to go check it out. And I'm a firm believer, little things turn into big things. And it takes all of us working together to make the neighborhoods safer and better. So.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna turn into my grandmother, sitting in front of the front window with her scanner, drinking a beer.
Well, now we don't have scanners, you just got to call the cell phone and go. Or, hey, just watch Facebook, you don't need a scanner. But it's good. Lake Pan's definitely getting a lot better. I see it, we see it in the numbers. The burglaries, the thefts, you just don't see as much going on. Like I said, next month it could spike. It goes in trends, who moves into the area, who moves out of the area.
And you have to look for the little ones too. Understand what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Spring break. Yeah, it's on right now. My wife's a teacher. What typically happens during spring break?
Kids are having a while.
And so then there's just some type of mischief. So you'll see little spikes here and there as you go along. But the most important thing is to see the trend come down, which is the change in the community and how we interact.
I see where the criminal was sending the beach, Miami Beach.
Those up there, are they? I saw there was up in the media about there was a breakup between Miami and the Spring Breakers. Now they're going somewhere else.
You don't want him here in Lake Pan? I was joking with you.
Is there even a way to get to that way? It's all owned by people, right?
No, there's boat ramps.
Yeah, there's two.
There's boat ramps, there's no beach.
You wouldn't I'm thinking at Tracy's point, there's a little bit of a beach on the tip out there. You might be gator bait. I don't know if I know something.
I'm pretty hungry, I love gator.
No, they might like Yeah, there's not a real high demand for a beach in Lake Pan.
You're talking about the boat ramp that rides the main boat ramp?
Yeah, out there. I mean, you've got a boat
Don't
ramp
park
out
on
on
that
the
big
interstate.
tear-shaped piece of property.
Yeah, there's a little piece out there, a little bit of
He'll come
sand.
out there and start yow.
So,
I don't have to worry about spring break.
I'd like to commend y'all for the last month.
has it been better over there?
Yeah, the presence has been, it's really shut things down.
Good.
And I watched somebody get that on the other day away from some cars. It was kind of funny because he was getting it out of there quick when he saw cop cars.
And by the way, thank you for that. And this is how finicky things are, but I'll explain it. There was a post that people were criticizing how many police officers were apparently at Catfish Johnny's the other day. They were not even our officers. officers. We had had a training for canine, and we had a lot of canine people come to the area, and they went to Catfish Johnny's for lunch, and somebody would find it, and they posted it. Those were not us. Those weren't even our cars. To be honest, I zoomed in on it, looking at it, trying to see it. They weren't even our cars. That was not us.
This is where they had the meeting. There were like 40 police cars out here. I'm not joking. There was a lot, all canine related.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot.
If they're in town for a class, they're gonna ask us, hey, where's a good place to eat? We're gonna recommend a mom and pop place. Well, what better than Catfish Johnny? Miss Pat's been there for 20 plus years. The food's great. Everybody loves the catfish fingers and grits. So, you know, and we're gonna recommend places like that for them to go. And they all go there. And some of the guys have been there before. It's like, hey, you know, I'm coming back. You know, and that's what you see. So.
Question you might not want to answer.
No, we're gonna answer.
No, has Pat picked his undersheriff yet?
What's that? He hasn't made it through the election yet, so we're waiting.
No, that's done deal. Has he picked it?
We're not allowed to talk
We
about
don't talk about
politics.
I told you might not want to answer.
Well, we answered it, but we can't talk about it. So, yes, ma'am.
I developed the We Love Our Law Enforcement sign in Sumter County, and I'm going to have a Solidarity meeting,
Okay.
and I would like to bring some of them up here.
Oh, we'd love to.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
great.
It'd be great.
I know Kathy has two, I think, have given her.
Yes, out in front of her place.
Yeah,
Great.
and I think we need to display that more.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's good.
good deal.
Also, two random topics. The Salvation Army, there was somebody's in charge of the donations, you know what I mean? And he's a snowbird. So if you want to help out, help the homeless, basically, he's a snowbird, so half the year, he'll need help distributing. So if anybody wants the Salvation Army, the new building over there, but he's already left. So I don't, whatever. But on another note, 211. You guys use that a lot for your service too?
We do.
Oh, okay.
We recommend 211.
Okay, that's a United Way sponsored thing, I guess, or United Way sponsors that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That help, you call out, you have any questions, or you see a homeless person or whatever, help the person call 211, and they'll hopefully have somebody there to forward them into a faith-based or county or whatever services are available. Just free information. Call late like 911, but you call 211 instead.
That's one of the biggest things we give out, is we have a printout of many of the resources that 211 will give, and so that's kind of where we start with our resources, is on those numbers. Yeah. The Salvation Army is excellent too. They've helped us a lot.
They just always happen to do it at the wrong times when I.
Right. I mean, if it's 5:30 on a Friday, which is always late. But
I think we ought to commend this young man for all the community services that he does. He's out there picking up trash and doing.
The county does pick up trash. People don't think the county, they do. No.
Helping with the gazebo and everything.
I seen him out there with a shovel by cows one day.
Oh, yeah, well, I live near there too, so I'll go.
I see your name floating around, and then Melissa Merrill, who picks up all the strays and stuff, I see her name floating around Lake Panasoffkee on the stuff. Y'all see?
I'd rather not be announced, because some things I'm pretty sure I shouldn't be doing. But if that is for the community, it's all legal stuff, but like yesterday, I was picking up and I
That's
got,
what they all say.
there was a big, one of the houses is filled with trash and like it was so bad, and it's private property, so I'm not going to just take the trash, even though I'm tempted to. It's right on the main road, and it's been like that for 2 years, and I'm like, screw, yesterday, what did I regret it? So I dumping up water filled with, maggots on maggots kind of thing. It was that bad, you know what I'm saying? So, and it stunk so bad, and I didn't have the right gloves. I already started it. I had ADHD mind. But then the garbage was still there, but I also knew somebody who I got a donation off of from back of my car, put the garbage in, and he lived next door. He says, what's the deal with this? I already started it. He says, oh, they only do 2 months out of the year. I'm like, do you think they'll care that I'm trespassing? He says, oh, no, I'm sure, okay, awesome. So, because I didn't get in trouble for, who would complain, but you never know, people are weird. Why are you getting rid of all my diapers? You know what I mean? It's just, that kind of stuff. But it's all good, it's all good. Also, the county does do a good job. It's the contractors that under them that don't do, they do, but either they don't get paid well enough, or they just, who knows? But the county, I think the county does
It gets
a,
sloppy.
yeah, the county workers, when they come through, they do a perfect job.
Some are pretty good though.
Alrighty, yeah. Since I have any, I was good, and I appreciate you all coming to the meeting tonight. I definitely appreciate the sheriff's department. They've been doing a terrific job. And so next month, planning on having the fire chief over Sumter County to have him come and speak and give you information about ambulances and the different things that the fire department do. So hope you all show up for that too. Put the word out.
When are they going to have the meeting on the RV park?
Beg your pardon?
Oh, they did, didn't they?
When are they going to have a meeting here on the
Here.
RV park? I'm not sure they're calling it that now.
I haven't heard any.
There was one yesterday, but I couldn't go to it.
Yeah, that's.
want the county commissioner.
Yeah, Sumter, you have to go to Sumter County Commissioner meeting, but they, the last I heard, it's, they're looking at 5 years.
That's his
Anything.
Yeah, right here.
That's
Yeah.
a done deal.
It takes a lot of planning and approval from all the governing organizations.
Yeah, but I think the major one is the county commissioners.
Yeah, the DOT has to do a highway survey to find out which would be the best entrance into the trailer park. There's
Maybe they'll pave that road out there.
yeah, but basically
October.
everybody wants
That's when they're gonna do
the
October.
entrance off of 470. It's gonna work out, we don't know.
All the
yet.
way.
They also explained to
Well,
them
winter.
if they put in
It's
a
October.
trailer park, they have to put in a large septic system. Well, if they put a septic system in and the county turns around and puts a water treatment plant in, they have to turn around and tear that septic system back out. So that's over $1 million that they have to spend to put it in and tear it back
Well,
out.
I figured they'd put the sewer system in, so we, Lake Payne people would have to pay for the RV park sewer. That's the way the other works.
No, if they put a sewage system in, you have to pay from your house to the sewer line. Then it has to go through inspection. You can do it yourself, but it has to pass inspection. And plus they charge you so much per foot, so, all that is, you know, probably 2, 3, 4 years down the line.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
No, in winter. It's already paid for. In winter, it's coming. Towards 7 there.
We just sat here 6 months ago and they said it wasn't going to be paid.
It is. 470 is going to be paid. Thank you. And Chuck, we love you.